All right, we are officially live. There is no turning back, but I'm completely excited to welcome on the one and the only Brodie Brazil's lookalike, Casey Pratt. Or is it Casey Pratt's lookalike? Brodie Brazil is your host. And yeah, who's who here?
What's up? What, Brodie? I only agreed to do this because I thought this would be one way to prove that we are not the same human being.
Two people in the same place on the same screen. So unless this is AI, or no, CGI. Wait, what am I trying to say? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is not computers. Yeah. I'm a real person, you're a real person, and we have beers to prove it. Hey, what do you got tonight, by the way?
Tonight, and this is why I was actually initially trying to suggest coming to your house to do this.
Right.
Like we did a few years ago.
Right.
Because I have on hand Scarcity from Altamont Beer Works, triple IPA, and this is hard to get. The scarcity season.
It's scarce. Scarcity would be scarce, right?
Exactly.
It's a triple IPA. So what's the ABV on there?
Whew, I think it's 11.0. Yeah, it's no joke. So, this is like what they bring to SF Beer Week for the big, gold medal competitions, and usually it's like a top 2 finisher. I actually didn't check to see what it did this year, but it's my favorite beer. I love it.
I might have had a Scarcity at one of your children's birthday parties.
You did, yes, you did actually. Yeah, I think that was. Oh man, was that Emerson's second birthday party?
It was.
I loaded up.
It was.
I loaded up the party with Scarcity because it always releases right around my daughter's birthday, coincidentally.
This time of year, I wanted to. I just wanted to throw that in there. That sets the scene here. So I panicked today. Right, because I knew we were going to be doing this separately, and I was fresh out of any good beer that I wanted to showcase. So I was like, I'll go, pick up a 4-pack or a 6-pack at an undisclosed location. Turns out I go there, I couldn't even find a triple IPA, which is what I promised for this stream, and I'm not delivering. So
false advertising.
I do have Mac Drizzle Diamond Double IPA. So we're both on Altamont.
Yeah.
So
now
cheers.
I haven't had the Diamond. I've had the Mac Drizzle Platinum.
Yeah.
And it's really good. It's one of my favorite doubles. So that Diamond, I was actually really excited to try it. But last time I went there, they had the Scarcity, so I just loaded up on that.
I've had this before. It's pretty good. Altamont. I mean, there's a ton of different cool stuff to try there.
Can't go wrong.
The other place I love out here is Fieldwork. Look, again, I panicked. I only had a certain time frame to get stocked up, so all I could get was a double. So if you're slurring by the end of this, or if I'm making more sense and you're making less, that's the reason why.
That's just our standard way of going about this anyway. So you tend to make more sense than me, so it's okay.
I don't think anybody. No, that's not what this is about. By the way, we're just casually, having a beverage, having a chat. That's what this is actually about. And you know what I was thinking? I mean, everybody's going to tune in because obviously it's binding vote season, and we're going to talk Howard Terminal. Oh, wait. You have that shirt? You have that shirt?
Oh, yeah.
You have that shirt?
Oh, see?
You didn't even know. We did
not coordinate this.
Well, I had a feeling you would wear it. Yeah. And here's the other thing. I had a feeling you would. I know you didn't even know I had it because you asked me before and I was playing dumb.
I wanted to get you one.
Of course I have. Of course I have the shirt. And I'll let it fly when we're talking about Howard Terminal. But and that's the reason I wore the zip up, was to hide it from you, and also so that we're not twinsies the entire live stream.
Put this one on then?
Oh, see, now that might be fair, right? Well, are you gonna? You don't need to change in front of us now, do you?
You put it over it.
You can walk off camera for a second. So look, no, I mean, tons of Howard Terminal stuff that you and I need to go back and forth on. We need to talk about this stuff. We want to, but we also need to. But I want to begin on parallel paths of a different kind.
Okay.
You and I over the years.
Yeah.
So crazy enough, I think the first time I ever met you, I didn't know I met you, but was somewhere in the 2000s. You were attending an A's game at Petco Park. Yep. With your then girlfriend. I mean, that's what Danielle was back. I mean, you guys weren't engaged at that point, right?
Yes.
Yeah, not engaged. Okay, so not even engaged yet. I was working. I interviewed you as random A's fan. That's the first, and I didn't know that I even met you like that until probably 3 or 4 years later when we're in that conference room at Comcast Sportsnet and we're both about to be employed by the TV network. And then we both kind of realized, wait, that was you? Wait, that was you? So.
Well, yeah, I remember that. Well, so I think it was probably, I want to say maybe 2006. I don't know. You actually probably have the archives.
Yeah.
That's the funniest thing about it is I've never been afraid of the camera, as you know. So I saw you guys walking around and you're like, anyone want to do a TV interview? And I was like, I'll do it. And so, yeah, we met in San Diego, and then we all got hired on the same day at Comcast Sportsnet all those years ago. And I remember we kind of bumped into each other and you're like, you look familiar. And I was like, yeah. And then we kind of talked and we were like instant friends. But the funniest thing was the next day you showed up to work and you had the footage. Like, that's the one thing that's amazing about Brodie. If you guys don't know this, he archives everything. Yeah. You can find it fast. So he found and pulled the footage. And it was so funny that he had it.
It's the most frustrating thing in my world to have done something, to have the video of something, or to have, the content, and then it's time where everybody wants to see it or to rehash it, and then I don't know where it went, or I can't get it, or I don't have access to it. I've always saved a lot of things, and still to this day, I could pull out a clip of so many things. They're just fun, right? I mean, they're not earth-shattering, but I will say sometimes, and it's especially meaningful, and I mean, think about some of the recent losses in the A's family. Somebody like Dick Callahan. It didn't take me long at all to go back and pull out the clip, of announcing with him, or we did a whole feature on him. So I kind of like it that way too, to have handy and be timely. But so anyway, so we met in let's call it 06. It probably was 06 or 07.
Around there.
And then we're working together by 2009. Was it 09? And then like you had a bunch of different, I had a couple different roles, kind of working my way in. You had a couple different roles working your way in. But before you were at Comcast Sportsnet, you were already working where you're at now at Channel 7, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was at Channel 7, and there's a long story there, but I was in college. I went right from my internship to sports producing on the weekends, thanks to the help of a lot of great people, including a guy named Jason Toops who works at KTVU.
I went to high school with Jason, by the way.
Yeah,
that's the small world it really is.
Exactly. So when the weekend producer left, they were like trying to find someone to do it. And I was like, I can do it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I said I did. And I got the job. And then shortly thereafter, the guy that was running our department left. And so I was trying to get that job. So like right out of college, I would have been running our whole sports department. And then they passed me over. And that's when I told Mindy Bach, again, small world. She was working with me freelance at Channel 7 and also freelance at CSN. She told CSN about me. I was one of the first people I interviewed. And then I jumped over when they launched, started the same day as you.
That's amazing. When you look back and just think about it, the paths that led, and I was joking about parallel paths because, well, obvious reference, which we'll get into later, but you were a San Francisco State guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm San Jose State. I mean, we kind of did the whole, not real like flamboyant college route. Like, a lot of people in our business, they went to prestigious institutions.
Yeah.
I think you and I realized we got a lot out of our state educations, but it was more important to get into the business that we wanted to. So, all right. So we're working together. You were producing for a long time. You got into covering the A's exclusively for a bit. And when did you leave CSN? It's like
I'm really bad at years. Like, let's see. I was at CSN for 7 years. We started 2009.
I was going to say 15 or 15, 16.
So that makes sense. Yeah. So I was producing at CSN and honestly doing a lot of A's shows, obviously. Mm-hmm. The thing about the A's shows, this is fun. I can say this, but Brodie can't. But because he still works there. We would try every day to crush the giant shows that were going on in Studio A. We were in this little Studio B. We used to call it A's Island. And the giant shows were over here in Studio A with all the attention and all the managers and all the help. And Brodie and I were just like this this little team chugging along, and just every day we would just kick their butts. Our shows were just awesome.
But I mean, that's a healthy rivalry, right? Like you don't
No, it was a healthy rivalry.
you want to have a chip on your shoulder. You want to be motivated.
No, that was the Bay Bridge series, but we cared. Like we cared a lot about the product and what we were doing, and you know what? Like when you're doing something you're loving, it's not really like you're working, so you can put all that extra time and energy into it, and so. That was cool. And then I went from that to being the first ever A's Insider at CSN.
That's right.
Covering the team that way, doing the Bernie lean with you.
So that now I'm getting the timing right. So that was 2012, clearly.
Yeah, it was 2012.
And you did that for a couple years until you eventually go back to ABC7, and that's where you've been ever since.
Yep.
And you kind of wear all hats there. Your main job is like primary. What is it? Lead sports producer, or are you executive yet?
Producer.
Oh, senior. See, I knew it.
It's kind of like I do everything an executive producer would do. So I kind of run everything, do our schedules, do all the other stuff. I work really closely with Larry Beal, my guy. He's sports director, and it's funny because a lot like you and I are very similar. Larry and I have like this crazy hive brain thing going on. We always think the same things at the same time, so we're crazy good together. And we run that department, and then I do some freelance anchoring and some other stuff when they need it, and cover Howard Terminal just because, and that's about it.
Yeah, those are two other things I wanted to get into. The first is that you are literally a jack of all trades. Now I don't know that everybody knows that about me too. They kind of only see one thing, but editing, producing, building a home studio. Yeah, I literally pull all those tools out of the bag. But I mean, you do that on a regular basis because I've seen you on camera. I know you're producing on a lot of those other nights. I got to tell you, I've always appreciated people in our business, the TV world, who know a little bit of their job, but also everybody else's job, and can actually do multiple jobs. I think I think it's still too rare. You know, there's too many one-trick ponies out there. I think over time, everybody has learned another skill or two, but I always find it awesome, people like yourself who can literally pull all the tools out of the bag and say, what do you want me to do? You know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, edit, shoot, produce, anchor, report, whatever. It doesn't matter. The key, though, is learn everything. If you're trying to get started in this business and you're watching this and you want to like figure out how to get to the kind of places that Brodie and I are right now, and that's the key, learn everything. I mean, when I first started, I was like, teach me how to print scripts, teach me how to run a prompter, teach me. I didn't want to do all that for a living per se, but I wanted to know how to do it. I wanted to know how it worked because I wanted to get my foot in the door and then kick it open however possible. That's the key.
So you don't do a lot of like on camera hosting, but you do enough of it. But let me ask you this. So if it's not a regular thing, and people always ask me this question, I already know what my answer is. Not do you get nervous? Do you get anxious? Like when it's time, like when it's, hey, I'm anchoring tonight, and I know on Channel 7 there's a lot of people watching this right now.
You know what? I have this weird freakish ability not to get nervous per se. I don't really like
the heart rate goes up though. It's like I
was gonna say I don't get like anxious.
Yeah.
Like where I'm like dreaming about it or I'm like worried about it all day. I mean, I just enjoy it. Like it's actually fun. Yeah. So, but like right when the light's on and you're like counting down to your hit, you kind of like you elevate up a little bit, like, and you need that elevation for energy. So that's good. But yeah, you're kind of like deep breath, go. Right. You know what I mean? And it's just about just kind of putting on a show. So
are you feeling that energy right now?
Oh yeah.
Probably not. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to like. The thing is, not to mock it, but the thing is this is kind of just like you and I would just do this on a normal night,
right?
Not necessarily on a live web stream. So, you know, it's not that different from just kicking it with you, anyways.
I'm trying to pull back the curtains a little bit before we dive into Howard Terminal. Share some, like industry type stuff. Plus, again, one of the reasons I wanted to kind of do the warm up here with you is just because, like, you and I have this interesting history and past, and so many things in common. And although people do confuse us for looking alike, I mean, we've had a lot of shared experiences too, And I think to your point, just about the whole, like, I'm performing, I'm on camera, I'm, anchoring a news, a sports segment. I think what it is if you don't get up for it, something's wrong with you. You're supposed to get a little bit, like, jacked up or a little adrenaline going, and it's no different than a Major League Baseball player stepping in the batter's box. I mean,
exactly. It's not like nerves. It's kind of more like, I don't know if it's anticipation. I don't even know how to put it. It's, you just kind of have to get up for it, and you will do that naturally, because when you stop getting up for things like that, then you might just want to retire. Like,
exactly.
If you can.
Right.
You have the luxury to.
Right. You don't care. You don't care enough anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going
to get to that point?
Do you want to do TV stuff for a long time? I mean, you've been at this for decades, multiple decades. You want to keep doing it?
Yeah. I'll do it as long as I can, really. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it. We're so blessed to do what we love, and especially in an area we grew up in. I mean, most people can do this job, a job that they love, but they have to take this long circuitous route to get to where they want to be.
Yep.
And it takes years and years and years. And I mean, I think we both got lucky and we started in this area, and we're still here. So, we're so blessed to sit on the couch or sit at work, either one, and watch an entire baseball game. And that's like literally what we're getting paid to do this. It's ridiculous.
Never had to move away, right? Like what you were saying earlier, never had to go to a small market. That's kind of the way that our industry is set up. Young people have to make sacrifices. They're lucky if they come back. Neither you nor I really did that. And the other thing about it is we don't have to fake it. And what I'm saying is, when you're assigned to host the Oakland A's pregame show, you don't have to fake it. Like, I don't have to fake that this is my squad. This is like part of my DNA. And I know the same thing for you as well. You know, when you get those assignments that it's authentic, as authentic as can be. So let me ask you this. Hypothetically, if somebody wanted to challenge your A's fandom, right? And they're like, Casey, I'm not sure about you. Are you really into the A's? Like, is this really your thing? What's your credentials?
You know what my credentials honestly would be uncomfortable. I would feel uncomfortable. And the reason I say that is, when you become a beat writer for a team, it gets beaten into you so many times that you have to remove your fandom from the equation.
Right.
That is true. But I also think that having that underlying fandom helps you so much on the beat because of the context.
Yeah.
You've literally lived through some of these years and teams and all the ups and so many downs, as you know, that it gives you a really, really good context and a lot to draw off of in your memory banks that someone coming in that didn't live through all this doesn't have. Right. So while I think you have to separate your fandom, you have to also kind of lean on it sometimes because, my thing that I like to do, I don't know like the most, but a lot of is I just like to relate to the people watching the games.
Yeah.
Because that's who you're being consumed by in your coverage. Like if you don't know and understand the fans and what they're going through and what they're experiencing and what they care about or don't care about, what they're mad about, what they're happy about, you're disconnected. You don't understand it, and that's why, they're absolutely some of my favorite people to talk to. I do it every day.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I mean, you literally know who you're speaking to. Sometimes there's that empty void, even like right now. I know people are watching this on YouTube, and I can see you on my screen over here, and I can look at the camera there, and I don't know how many people I'm talking to right now or that will eventually see this, but all I'm looking at is a lens and a camera and a monitor of myself right below it. But like you get this empty feeling sometimes as a broadcaster. It's not public speaking where you can see reactions and how many people are here and what's their body language. You have no clue. And I think that's what makes it special when you have that background is that you know who you're speaking to. You generally have an idea of their sentiments, what they've lived through, because you've lived through it too. So
yeah, you're kind of speaking to your inner fan. And it's funny because like just what you said, look, point proven. Here, this is my camera.
Yeah.
This is actually the computer. I'm looking at the computer right now where Brodie is. Camera, computer. So I'm staring into a dead.
That's it. Yeah.
Lens with a light behind it. So,
talking to electronics. That's basically what we do. So
pretty much.
What got you into covering Howard Terminal so much? I'm going to imagine that it was not assigned to you by Channel 7. I'm going to imagine that you offer your services to cover that story and that beat more than they demanded of you. So I'm wondering, and I think I'm right on that, but what makes you interested in covering this story so much?
Well, part of it is like, I could never mention Howard Terminal again. It wouldn't hurt my job performance at all. Really. It's not my job. But it is part of my job now.
Sure.
And to Channel 7's credit, they've noticed the work that's been put into it, and they fully support me. I mean, when I'm saying something's going on, they're giving me the time and the resources to take care of it. So kudos to them, really. Yeah. And honestly, where I got really into it was more recent, when the relocation threats came, and I started noticing that there was sort of like a malaise. Like, people just were so sick of hearing about the stadium saga through the decades. They're just tired of it. Right. They just tell me when they get the shovels out. You know what I mean? And the problem with that is people got so sick and tired of hearing about it, and rightfully so, that I started sensing that the team could literally leave and nobody was going to be paying any attention.
Yeah.
It would just be like, we tried, whatever. So part of it was just, I really wanted to be involved in making sure that everybody had the answers they wanted, making sure that people were paying attention, and just making sure that a big bright light was shined on this entire process, good and bad, because I want everybody to know what's going on. I want everybody in charge to be accountable. And I just want to see this thing either happen or not happen, but make sure that everybody knows what's going on and why it happened that way when it does, instead of just the team slinking off to Vegas in the darkness.
See, I have no shame in letting everybody know where I stand on all this stuff. I make it very clear. I want this to happen, and I think, it's got so many good reasons why it could and why it should, and nothing's perfect. Don't get me wrong. I can hear the opposition side. Like, I will listen to it. I've done a lot of listening to it, but I make it very clear that this is what I want to see happen. At the same time, when I'm passing on information or insights or gut instincts, I also don't want to lead people wrong either, right? I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to be blind to reality. I don't want to actually, lose sense of what's actually happening. So I guess what I'm asking you here is, so how do you present all this information while at the same time, I think it's mutual between you and I. We favor this project happening. It's some people will say, "Oh, I have to be completely impartial." But you know what? Everybody's partial to a certain degree, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very public about my opinions on it for a long time. And what's funny about it is Howard Terminal is always my favorite site. It's always the site I thought that they should build at.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really considered that way for a long time. I mean, you remember all the different places they wanted to build: Fremont,
San Jose, Laney College.
College. Even when they announced Laney Peralta, I mean, I was like, cool, but Howard Terminal would be way better. And so, obviously that whole thing at Laney and Peralta Community College didn't work. But Howard Terminal was the hardest, but also by far the best. So, I mean, it's going to take a lot to get that thing built, but if they can pull it off, I mean, that's the grand slam.
I actually like the Laney College site. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about the Peralta site, which was what the A's were pursuing in 2017. I've had this fantasy idea for years. Now, we're way past this, so I'm going to throw it out and say that it also has already expired. But trade Laney College and that site for the Coliseum and just flip-flop. Put Laney College where the Coliseum's at. You got a BART station. You could get more young people to get their education there. You could build a brand new campus there. You could literally start the school from scratch and then take the Laney College current site, bulldoze it, build a new stadium there. I always thought that was, but obviously the hurdles involved with that are tremendous, right? How do you stop and then it's a school. You don't necessarily want to be the guys who knocked over a school, but even if you build them a brand new one.
You have to agree to build them a brand new school.
Of course.
Site, which would then hinder whatever development trying to get built there. But yeah, I mean, and then you'd be closer to like Merritt. There would be a lot of positive parts right there.
Right. But I do like Howard Terminal to me. And look, there's a lot of things and there's a lot of things that need to fall into place to make this the perfect site. And they're working on that. We'll talk about the EIR in a second. We'll talk about infrastructure in a second. But overall, if you're just looking at where should a ballpark be for the city of Oakland and what are your choices remaining with the land options left, I mean, just do Google Maps. Look at it and say, where, if not this, where else is the perfect spot?
Well, the answer would be the Coliseum, but they don't want to build it.
Oh, no.
And, the thing about the Coliseum, Brodie, is people always go, why not the Coliseum? It's viable. And I don't agree with the sentiment by the A's that say it's not viable. I think it's viable. It's just not desirable is the way I would put it. And the reason I say that is you had the Raiders, you had the Warriors, you had the A's. They were all right there. And what did you do with the area around the Coliseum?
Right.
I'm not talking about the parking. I'm talking about the area around the Coliseum and parking.
Nothing ever developed, yeah.
Nothing. There was a Malibu Grand Prix there.
Yeah, there was.
Let's remember that.
Yeah.
It's gone.
Yeah, right.
There's been other things that came and went there. I mean, Walmart couldn't even survive on a Hagenburger. I mean, there's just not, it's not the right place for a sports franchise. Well, I know transportation's good, but when you had 3 sports franchises there, you couldn't do anything with it. Why is one better now?
People will say, if you build something significant, it would be a fresh start. But I'm also here to say that the neighborhood like surrounding the Coliseum, to your point, it's mostly zoned as industrial. We're talking about the immediate couple blocks, right, surrounding, like where San Leandro Boulevard is, east and or I should say north and south. Getting all twisted here. It's not zoned for anything that would be conducive to, entertainment or bringing in more and different crowds. I think it's funny. We could sit here and bash the Coliseum site. I mean, I have no problem doing it, but it would be good. It would and it will be good for something totally separate, just not a baseball stadium right now.
Literally the next thing I was going to say. I think everything they're talking about doing there is awesome. I think it's perfect for that. Yeah. If you were to put residential there, put commercial there, do a lot of different things, public space. I mean, it's perfect for that. I think it would be beautiful, especially with the transportation. So yeah, I'm not dumping on the site per se.
Just not for baseball.
I think what AASCG is talking about doing is fantastic. I think that'll be great. I just don't think that that's the best place to put a sports franchise because they've had a sports franchise there for a long time and no one shows up. Right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this.
I don't want to say no one, but very few people show up. Putting a brand new stadium in the exact same spot's not going to change anything.
Let me ask you this, switching gears for just a second. The NFL has been proposed at the Coliseum site. The WNBA has been proposed at the, I guess we're calling it now the Oakland Arena. I feel weird about those two things. Number one, the NFL, I'm not sure that is a reality. It's an idea. Not. It's a concept. It's a far-fetched one.
They can say that all they want. It's not going to happen. I think the WNBA is actually a much better idea because no matter what they do with that spot, they're planning on keeping that arena. And the WNBA would be perfect for that arena. The problem
would it be though? Is that the perfect? I mean, if you really want a WNBA team to not just exist, like you want it to thrive. First off, how does the WNBA not exist in the Bay Area already?
It's crazy.
The league has been going on for decades. This market is like perfect for a team and a franchise, and the support it would gain around here would be tremendous. 100%. But I'm also saying, like, I want to put it in a place where it's going to thrive, and I don't know that a 60-year-old arena that even was totally redone in the mid-'90s, and it seats 19,000. I don't know that that's the perfect home for that type of franchise. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it would be cool though. I do. But the big problem, if you want to call it a problem, is the WNBA is not coming here without the Warriors getting their safe.
I've heard that too.
Period.
Yeah.
And so what that will mean is if the Warriors want the WNBA to be a Chase Center, it's going to be a Chase Center.
Is that your cat, by the way? What's going on there?
Where? Oh, here?
No, wait. What were you reaching down towards?
My cup.
Oh. It looked like you were petting something for it. It looked like
I was sweet scarcity.
Okay, sorry. WNBA to Chase Center.
If it goes anywhere, the Warriors are going to get there safe first. Whether the Warriors decide they want the WNBA Chase Center or not,
right?
That's one thing or another. But again, I would if I could choose WNBA Oakland Arena, make it happen.
Well, I would say
the Warriors will be the ones to get to choose that.
My number one choice would be at the Coliseum site, just not playing at a cavernous old building that might not suit, an intimate audience and the type of crowd and what they could do, right? It's going to seem like you're moving into somebody else's old house. I don't know.
It was a pretty good old house, though. The Warriors represented it well. An Oracle.
I
want a lot of history.
I want it to go off without a hitch. So yeah. I'll do whatever it takes. Okay, so the Coliseum site, also this, and I've heard, just fix up the Coliseum. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. It's impossible to do. It's a structure made out of concrete. It's not like your house. It's not like watching HGTV where you tell the, what are the brothers' names? The Scott brothers, the
Property Brothers.
Property Brothers. You don't tell the property. You don't tell the Property Brothers, hey, make the clubhouse bigger, make the concourse bigger, make the seats closer to the field. You can't do that there, and I don't know how to explain that to people. Not to mention, the field level is already 28 feet below sea level, right? So you're already dealing with that. How about sea level rise? The Coliseum site, that parking lot, maybe 5 feet above sea level. So you'd have to build it up to protect anything new that you built there for 50 plus years down the road. It is, and they would, right? If they were going to use this site for something else, they'll take all the mitigation measures they need. But you can't fix up the Coliseum for baseball. That's kind of the last thing I want to touch on here. I've heard that so many times. It's not possible. Yeah,
it's not happening. I mean, you've heard of Coliseum sewage. A lot of that's because of how low it is. And it's just old. I mean, we were talking about the Property Brothers. I remember, I think I was asking Voos about this a long time ago.
Good name drop, by the way.
Like, what could you do to fix the A's clubhouse? Obviously, the Raiders ended up leaving and they took the Raiders clubhouse, which was perfect. But you actually couldn't enlarge the A's clubhouse.
Right.
Because the structure of the Coliseum wouldn't allow it.
Right.
I mean, there's just concrete pillars and things that just you couldn't move. So there was just nothing they could do. You're already getting the Property Brothers version of the Coliseum, because when Dave Cavill came in, that's a lot of what they did. Is they made the Stomper Fun Zone, and they made the treehouse. They put in the cupola and then the hero decks, and I mean that is that is the Property Brothers version of the Coliseum. You already got it. You can't fix it up anymore. Aside from Frank Thomas knocking down Mount Davis like he did in that commercial in 2006, there's not a whole lot you're gonna be able to do. Can't do it.
And Mount Davis, by the way.
That's proof right there that I grew up an A's fan.
Oh, you dropped a note. Yeah, you never really gave us your A's credibility. May I mention this?
All right, fine, I'll answer it. So I went to like you, and I know the same for you. I went to my first A's game when I was 1.
Okay.
When I grew up, I was a huge fan, obviously, of the the late 80s A's. You grow up on the late 80s A's and you're hooked for life. I was always a Canseco guy, not a McGuire guy, although I liked Mark. And fun fact, I was actually at the game before, the game during, and the game after Canseco got traded, and he was my favorite player. So that killed me when I was a kid. And also crazy, when the day Canseco got traded, I was in a luxury box with my dad.
Whoa.
Not because we're swanky, but because he filled out one of those credit card things when you came in the Coliseum gates. Remember those?
Nice.
You'd come in the Coliseum, and if you signed up for a credit card, you get a chance to win a luxury box. We actually won. So the one and only time I was in a luxury box, the day Canseco got traded. So we were actually getting the TV updates during the game, and we were just crushed. Oh man!
I was baiting you in the entire question. I wanted you to tell us about your childhood photo with Carney Lansford.
Oh, dude! I have that in my office. I wish I had it here to pull out. My office, not my home office. Right now. So when I was a kid, I think about 8 years old, I ran into Carney Lansford at Central Park in San Ramon. And obviously I recognized him. So I went up and asked if I could take a picture with him.
And you had a camera too. You had a camera, which is impressive back then, right?
Yeah, he was so kind. And he took a picture with me, and it was so funny because it's Carney, and he's holding his dog, it's like a little wiener dog or something. And then standing next to us, sipping on a drink is his son, Jared. And so I got that picture, and my mom was cool enough to frame it. But then a few weeks later, he was signing autographs at a batting cage in Danville, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so we took the printed photo and actually had him autograph it and then reframed it. Many, many, many years later, when Brodie and I worked together at CSN, Carney got hired, and we literally taught him how to do TV and worked hundreds of games with Carney Lansford. And so I think the A's were out of it one year, and we just, we were trying to fill some show time there. I think they were playing the Rangers that day. And so I was like, let's surprise Carney with this picture to see if he gets it. And so I remember we put it up on screen. You were probably hosting that day. And we're like, do you know who this is? And Carney's like, that's my son, right? My son?
Yeah, no, the other guy.
No. And then I came out like behind him. I was like, it's me, Carney. And he was so blown away. And it was so funny because from that day on, he called me son around the office. You probably remember. He's like, you could have been my kid. Look at this.
It's
true.
true.
The exact same age as his son. It was so funny.
And not to flex, I'm sure you have his number. I have Carney's number on my phone. I got Terry Steinbach's number. I got Jose's number. I've been known to associate with Dave Stewart once in a while.
Yes. I'm so mad. I left before he came in, and so I never got to work with
Stu's been great. And actually, Stu introduced me to Tony La Russa, so now I got Tony's. Anyway, it's crazy. It's crazy. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm literally having to remind myself on occasion that, like, look who you're sitting next to over there. Like, you watch this guy pitch all the time. Anyway, so it is a bit surreal. Okay, I don't know how we got sidetracked there. I don't really.
You pulled it out of me.
By the way, I don't really have an agenda in any of this. Like, the only thing I knew, either. I wanted to start with our parallel paths joke about not the stadium, but about our lives and careers. Okay, so back to Howard Terminal. Gut instinct. Let's just go there right now before we talk about details. As we stand here in early March of 2022, percentage of yes versus percentage of no, this is ultimately not going to happen. Where do you stand?
I would say I was like 60-40 before the EIR. I would put it more about 70-30 now. That's recognizing that I feel like so much important stuff has happened the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So much progress has been made really in the last year and leading into this year. They're already rolling here with the EIR being certified. I think those are major, major things that, frankly, I don't know how you feel, but I was never really sure they were even going to get to the EIR certification because we've seen so many renderings through the years, right? We've seen so many ideas fall and disappear. And in that process, we've never seen a certified EIR.
Right.
For something they actually wanted to build.
Right.
And so to me, it's monumental because we've lived through all the other nonsense. So I think it's huge. That being said, the EIR certification was really, truly the beginning of the binding vote season. However, that means things are serious now. I mean, like all the hiccups and hurdles and push just to get to that certified EIR, if that seemed difficult, if that seemed ugly at times, if that seemed hard, it's nothing compared to what we're about to experience. So while I'm optimistic that we're at this point of the journey, I'm cautiously optimistic because there's a lot of very, very difficult steps ahead.
But it's only 30%, you're saying?
I'm at 30 now because everything's going the right direction.
Yeah.
I mean, we joke about parallel paths, but you haven't heard a lot about Vegas lately. You know, when the EIR was certified, obviously the media rounds had to happen and the Vegas stations got their cut in. But even before that, you weren't hearing a lot about Vegas. That's quieted down an awful lot. And I do think the A's need Vegas, not just for leverage, but as a legitimate backup plan.
Yeah.
If this doesn't work out and there's a lot of things that could derail it, they have to have somewhere to play.
Right.
I mean, I disagree with they can't play at the Coliseum past 2024. They can extend that lease. It's a fact. They can do it. They don't want to do it, and understandably so. They need an answer. So that's why I'm 70-30. I think that 30 is real, though. I think it's definitely real. I'm not saying it's just leverage. It's a real thing.
Well, and I think the backup plan, to your point, it's like any human being would say, if I can't sleep in my house tonight, who are my three best friends that would offer a couch? Like you do need something. And I also agree with your point. The lease ends at the Coliseum in 2024, but I think what they certainly don't want to do is extend that not knowing what lies ahead for sure, right? That it would make no sense that Howard Terminal's not locked up by 24 and they're going to re-sign for X amount of more years. They want to make, if they're going to re-sign, if they're going to re-up, they want to make this next deal a certain amount of days because they know this is the last time they're doing it. I totally understand that, and I agree with you on Las Vegas being a real thing, not just for the A's. How about this, Casey? For Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is very interested in that market, and the A's are honestly doing the legwork, even if this goes the 70% way, like you're talking about, and like I hope for. The time and the effort and the dollars they're spending right now are not completely wasted in terms of Major League Baseball. So
yeah, and I think that if you look at the expansion fee and you look at the way that the divisions shake out, I think that Vegas is a great option for Major League Baseball. I really do. I just don't think the A's are the answer. I think expansion is the answer for Las Vegas. And I think it's the more lucrative option. If you can fix Oakland, fix Tampa Bay, expand to maybe Vegas, maybe Nashville too, get some really, really cool party cities in the mix for great road trips.
Vegas and Nashville are the two cities.
Dude, telling you, I would go to every one of those trips.
That's how you make baseball more exciting, right? You go to Vegas and Nashville. Wait, then you said you think Las Vegas is a good baseball market? See, I'm not. I know the Aviators draw well. I know there's history there. They've had a minor league team for years, and Cashman Field, all that. But I don't know, for 81 home dates in the dead of summer, you have to have a dome, I suppose.
Yeah, you'd have to have a roof.
But it's such a transient audience, and somebody from Las Vegas right now is going to say, "Well, look at the Golden Knights attendance." Okay, but that's only every couple nights during the winter months, and that arena is literally walking distance from the Strip. I mean, you could be anywhere from MGM Grand to Luxor, Excalibur, where on the southern side of the Strip, and you walk right around the corner and you're there. The places I've heard the A's would consider building there so far may not necessarily be that same setup. And I think we've already seen with the Raiders' new stadium that they're not a guaranteed sellout. So I'm not here bashing Las Vegas. I'm just saying it remains baseball in that town at a major league level for that many dates remains an unknown commodity. It should do well, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I could give you that. Unknown for sure. Going to have a roof. If they're not going to build on the Strip or near the Strip, don't even do it. Frankly, if they're going to choose a non-strip site over 50 plus acres of waterfront property in the Bay Area,
right? Summerlin or Henderson. Yeah.
Have fun with that. But I think it could be cool. And I think that if you're going to expand, it's a good place for it. So if you fix Oakland, fix Tampa Bay, like I said, get Nashville, Vegas in, then you get the expansion money coming in. And look what they're trying to do with the playoffs right now. I don't think they're trying to expand the playoffs the way they're doing it without expanding the league in mind. So I think that that's a good option down the road. But if you look at what happens to the Bay Area and to baseball as a whole, if the A's move to Vegas, the Giants take over all of Northern California. The NL West isn't going to want that. They can't have the Giants having this entire market to themselves when down in Southern California, there's a bunch of teams all bunched up. That's not going to go over well with any of those other owners.
There are so many things at play here. It's amazing. The ecosystems of local government, regional government, entities that you would think have no interest in the A's staying or moving, or Howard Terminal to the Coliseum, and all of a sudden, through this process, these different entities have popped up, and you're like, wait, where are you coming from in this? And then you realize, what their interest is one way or the other. Hey, real quick on the topic of the labor negotiations, and I realize neither you nor I are privy to these conversations. We hear what we hear, and we hear what a lot of other people hear. This isn't good for the game. It's kind of weird at a time where everybody's talking about Howard Terminal, Stadium, what's next, the approvals, the EIR, which I'm going to circle back to in a second. And baseball itself is not even operating as normal right now. Any gut instincts on when a game might be played?
I think that the owners don't mind throwing away a couple weeks of the season. I think, in fact, it might even help them in some ways. But I don't think they want to throw away much more than that. So I think they're going to come to their senses here pretty soon. From an A's fan perspective, it's kind of funny because I think Howard Terminal is the season. Binding vote season is the A's season this year, because what they do on the field is irrelevant compared to the fact that by the end of the year, we will likely know whether or not the A's are staying in Oakland or going to Las Vegas.
Right.
Nothing they do is going to even come anywhere close to being nearly as important as binding vote season. Not to mention, if they lift the lockout, what's going to happen with the A's? Likely, they're going to trade the Mats. They're going to get rid of all your favorite players. So, in a way, I'm almost rooting for chaos for baseball right now, because the longer this thing lasts, the harder it's going to be to blow up this team as we currently know it. And honestly, I just see this season A's baseball on the field is an added entertainment bonus to me, because what really matters more than anything is the future of the franchise and whether or not that's going to be in Oakland.
So you would trade a 62-100 season for making sure Howard Terminal is a sure thing?
I'll take 0-100.
What, 0-162? Oh no, you're right. We're not playing
162.
I did the math of 162. My bad.
Maybe 142. I don't know.
Okay.
I would take a winless A's season as long as it meant the A's got in Oakland. I wouldn't care. Because it just means nothing. It means nothing compared to the future of the franchise in the place that it calls home.
Well, and also flipping the team. Like if that's what we're doing the construction theme of descriptions here, if you're going to flip the team again, and this is the time to do it so that you are primed for 2025, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, then I think so long as that's really happening in the background, people they're going to go from, I don't want this to happen again, to, oh, this could benefit us in the most perfect fashion, in the years to come.
They could wait, though. I think they could wait on the flip and still flip everything and have it ready to go for 27, 28, whenever. The thing that honestly, you've seen this happen here already with the Warriors, happen with the Niners. You want a good team.
Exactly.
To sell the stadium effort and have everybody fired up and excited as this thing gets pushed over the hump, hopefully. If I were owning the A's, I would try to keep all the players and maybe see what I could do to build up around the roster, because you want a good team on the field that has the area excited and paying attention. Use that momentum towards getting that last hurdle done in the stadium this year. So, if I were them, I would keep all these guys and try to figure out what I could do in the lockout ends during this crazy fire sale that's going to happen to bolster that team. It's a good core. We've seen it. It's a good core.
Yeah.
They needed a little bit to get over the hump, and they probably should have. I don't even want to go down the Semien road, but if I were the A's ownership, I would try to have a good team going into this last year. They got to get this last push. Again, I think we're going to know by the end of the year whether they're staying or not.
Yeah.
And I would try to drum up any excitement I could to make that happen.
So going back to the EIR for a second, that was a huge deal. In my opinion, people said, well, this is just one of many, right? Why does it matter so much? Because if the EIR, number one, got knocked down because it was not favorable, that would have been a huge blow. But the other thing is, if that EIR wasn't, it is so comprehensive. How many pages? 4,000, 3,000? Like
3,500 pages?
Yeah, like it's an amazing depth of effort and knowledge. And I know you've gone through it too. Here's two people, which are you and I, probably unlike most, who I don't know how many pages you went through. I went until my head hurt, and I kind of skipped around and this and that. But it was so well put together. And I've used the term ironclad before. It kind of had to be that, because if it had holes in it, those would have got completely taken apart, picked through. That was such a critical effort by the A's. And I have to say, the city of Oakland's not really, they are involved, but the Oakland A's are the ones who have been paying for all this research, who've been paying for all this studying and documentation to happen. I think the EIR, if nothing else, if people said, well, they want to go to Las Vegas, or, their intentions are elsewhere, look at all the work and money that must have gone into that EIR alone. Like that, they don't need to say anything. That proof is in the effort and in that document right there. So I just want to say, I think that when they put that out and when it became clear that this was going to get voted on and it was going to go well, and obviously it did, that's why it was such a huge deal, because that could have been one of the biggest roadblocks. Two reasons. If the site were not feasible, or it had nuclear waste that we didn't know about somewhere on it. So number one, that's going to all go through in the right way. But number two, that it was prepared in such that you can see the effort and you can see the thoughtfulness behind it.
Yeah, I might take a different tack than you on that and sort of disagree on one thing. And the document itself was really the city's work. I mean, the A's paid for it, but the city staff put that thing together. And so while I agree with the sentiment, I would take that and just twist it a little bit and just say, that's proof the city wants to keep the A's.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like the A's worked really, really hard too to get that thing done, but the city did it.
Right.
So I see it as proof of both things. I see it as proof that this isn't just some sham thing that the A's, like you hear that all the time. They want to go to Vegas. They're just spinning their wheels just so they can get permission to go. That's not happening. I mean, the A's have invested. We want to call them cheap in roster construction. Go ahead. But the A's have spent millions and millions of dollars to get this thing done. They're spending, I think, about $2 million a month.
Yeah.
In legal fees, consultants fees. They're reimbursing the city of Oakland staff for everything. All the time and money put into it is A's reimbursement. The A's are paying for it. They're footing the bill. So this isn't just something they're doing to say, oh, well, we tried. No, they're really, really actually trying. It's right there in the document. It's right there. And yeah, it has to be ironclad because there's a lot of really smart lawyers here that are going to find holes in that thing still. And there will be lawsuits. Yeah. They're coming, guaranteed. So what's going to happen next is definitely the window just opened. There's 30 days for lawsuits to come, and they will come.
Yeah.
And I don't want everyone to panic with every lawsuit headline they see, because that's just what happens in projects like this.
Right. Right.
You know, but here, to me, it's not the EIR that proves the A's were actually trying to stay. It's the legislation that they got passed to make it so that they could get expedited reviews on these lawsuits. That was done ahead of time. And that was smart by the A's. They actually get streamlined reviews on all these lawsuits. They have to be settled within 270 days. Right. So again, by the end of the year, we'll have resolutions on all the lawsuits and much more. Hopefully they'll have the other binding votes, because, you know, there's a couple things, and actually maybe this would be fun, since we're both people that are publicly in support of Howard Terminal, and we're both publicly in support of the A's staying. Maybe it would be fun to actually talk about what we're really worried about here. Because that might be more of a service, because I see a lot of positives, but I also see a lot of things that could go wrong. And, you know, there are plenty of things that could go wrong.
Let me set up the YouTube clip that I'm going to make out of this eventually. So, Casey, so what are the things that you're concerned about? What is that 30%? You said 70 probably is going to happen, 30% maybe it won't. What is the 30% that worries you?
Well, I mean, I think first of all, the lawsuits will come, as we know, and they'll get the streamlined review, like we said. But there's going to be significant challenges in those lawsuits. There's going to be significant situations with the trains, Union Pacific Railroad. You know, I pointed it out on Twitter, and I actually expected a lot more of the opposition on the stadium to jump all over me for it. But if you walk to Levi's Stadium, what do? There's light rail.
There's
tracks.
VTA right there. Yeah.
And yeah, VTA and light rail, right there, stadium. Right. If you go to Chase Center, Muni lines. Right. If you go to Oracle Park, Muni lines. You got to cross them. I've done live shots out front. I've seen thousands and thousands of, let's just say, jubilant patrons stumbling across those tracks. And the mitigation measures are there. You fence the areas so that there's not uncommon crossings. You make it so people go to the crosswalks. You have traffic officers there that stop people and help them get across the tracks. Now, I know that light rail tracks aren't train tracks. They're not freight tracks. But if you look at the tracks in front of Howard Terminal and in front of Jack London Square, they look the same. They're not massive tracks. They're flat. Right. And, you know, the key is the light rail cars come far more frequently than those freight trains.
Getting hit by a train is getting hit by a train.
Yeah,
let's be honest
it's here. It's not a freight train.
A train is a train. Yeah,
I get you. There's a lot more interaction possibilities with the light rail trains. Yeah. I've stood out there before massive games for the Giants. You see them. They're constantly coming through, and there's fans constantly streaming through. So the mitigation measures are there, but that's going to get played up big time from the train people. The port people, the port itself is in unanimous favor of it. They voted in favor of it, but the tenants of the port don't like the stadium. And one reason is because they feel the growth scenarios of the port, which is critically important. We cannot do anything to limit the jobs at the port. That's just never going to work. Right. They feel like they need to be able to have room to grow. The one thing about Howard Terminal is it's like 40 feet deep. The new, larger vessels can't get through there. Right. And if they do expand the turning basin, which is the little chunk of land they're talking about taking out of Howard Terminal, so that the large ships can turn around, then that can be a positive for the shipping companies. But yeah, that's one major thing. And there's a big review coming up on Wednesday. The BCDC is going to meet and have a session with the port. And I believe the A's will be there too, the city. And they're going to discuss a lot of those things. And under some of the growth scenarios, like a moderate or strong growth scenario, they could say that the port, Howard Terminal, is needed for the port. And that could be a pretty insurmountable hurdle at that point. Because they're going to get the ultimate say.
Didn't the Port of Oakland recently expand significantly? They took all that old Oakland Army base land, which is, if people aren't familiar, it's closer to the Bay Bridge, Toll Plaza, and Terminal. Like, they just got a huge expansion. And I would have to also think, now Alameda is a totally separate entity, but the old Naval Air Station there, it's all shoreline. It's all unusable for residential or commercial purposes. First off, the scenery is beautiful. If you've ever seen it out there, there are
Faction, like, is that the brewery that's right there?
Yeah.
That place is sweet, man.
But it's also
right there.
It's also not connected to Oakland proper, right? Like Alameda is an island, so I guess you'd have to figure out the logistics of, okay, you could put cranes out there. What I'm saying is maybe there are opportunities to expand.
Can you see this?
Actual port operations. It's a little bit bright.
Purple?
Yeah, it's just So right, the red is Howard Terminal.
The red is Howard Terminal, the purple's the port.
Right.
Right?
That is
what are we talking about here?
That is number one, that's a small fraction. Number two,
what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's not like it's the middle.
Is it really going to help that much?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, surely you can find places to put the containers in the trucks. And I know that the port interests need to protect that land if they can hold on to it. But keep in mind, this isn't like if the A's get Howard Terminal, it's like, here you go, A's, take this free land. No, they're going to be paying hundreds of millions of dollars to the port for that land, whether they lease it or buy it at fair market value. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. And so if that's not beneficial to the port in helping them find other places to put trucks, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, frankly, me and Steve Berman, Bay Area sports guy, we did our most recent BART walk, where we walked from West Oakland BART to Howard Terminal. And we got up to the gate, and Steve's like, well, let's just walk in. And we just walked right in, and we walked around. And I was like, all right, we'll walk around until someone kicks us out. No one kicked us out. We walked around, and then we walked right out after we got tired of it. There's not much going on there.
I did the same thing with Dave Cavill in 2019. Now, he might have had probably
actually had permission.
He probably set up the proper access. But to your point, though, nobody was really there to stop us or tell us yes or no or hello or goodbye. It was like we're driving right onto Howard Terminal.
I might have seen like one or two trucks drive around. There's a lot of like parked trucks.
Yes.
There's not a lot there, man. I mean, honestly. So
well, let's talk about the site for a second. So when I visited, late 2019 is when I was there. I know you were more in recent times in terms of a visit. You know what surprises me about the site when you're on Howard Terminal itself? It's 55 acres is what they're talking about for this entire project as planned. It seems like 5 acres. It seems small.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that big.
It almost seems like, wait, you guys sure you could build a ballpark here? But in reality, 55 acres is way bigger than what is Oracle Park on like 13 acres or something. It's a huge, greater amount. Howard Terminal is than Oracle.
A lot smaller than a stadium.
Yeah.
Right.
You froze there for a second. I was really worried. I thought I lost you.
Oh my gosh. Is it better now?
No, it's good. And you weren't making a weird face when it was gone.
It's terrible.
Let me try this again. So,
no, I heard you.
Okay. So you visited Howard Terminal. What was it like from your perspective and vantage point?
Yeah, I would agree with you that it does seem smaller than it feels. Yeah, it did feel pretty small. There, like I said before, there wasn't a whole lot going on. There just parked trucks, containers. But I think what it would do based on the location for Oakland would be incredible, especially walking all the BART routes and just spending time in Jack London Square and being around there. When you go to downtown Oakland, you walk down Broadway, and could you imagine just walking down Broadway, past Beast Mode? You keep going to the 880 overpass is there. And as you clear that, you're going to be walking into what would be like a huge party atmosphere at Jack London Square. You'd be stopping at all the restaurants and shops and coffee places along the way. You'd hang a right, boom, right into the stadium gate. So I just think that the way it would connect downtown to the waterfront would be great. I think right now, what do you do when you go to an A's game? Honestly,
you park, maybe you tailgate. That's it.
You go to the game, you leave. You don't spend any money in Oakland. You don't stay in Oakland. You drive in, you leave. So I think what the ballpark would do is stimulate the heck out of all the businesses in the area. I mean, you're going to be stopping off, even if you don't like to walk the mile. And I know not everyone can do that. They'd have to have options for the people that can't walk the mile. Right. But if you were to walk that mile, it doesn't feel like you're chugging a mile because there's so many pit stops along the way that are fun.
Right. And it's not uphill. There's no terrain. Wow. It's not uphill, downhill. It's a straight shot. And you know what else too? I mean, to your point about what a ballpark would do for the city, for these neighborhoods and blocks that are, presently not only in need of some upgrades, but also there's just not a lot going there right now. Think about the flip side of this for a second. To your earlier point, we talked about the Coliseum at length. Like the Coliseum site is good for what? 81 times a year at this point, maybe 85 hypothetically. What does it do the other 200 plus days of the year? Wait, let me do my math. 240. You know what I'm saying, right? All the other days besides those 80-something game days, all the non-game
Monster
days.
Trucks.
Nothing really ever happens there besides the few this or that or concert, or monster trucks. So
you got to get the monster trucks.
You're flipping the sites so that the A's could bring revitalization to downtown, to neighborhoods surrounding Jack London Square, and then you're going to free up the Coliseum to do something tremendous for the city of Oakland and the county of Alameda. And here's my next question for you. We've only talked a lot about A's and the city of Oakland getting the EIR done. County of Alameda has got to be a partner in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where do you think they stand on this? Because it seems to me like they're a third party and they know it. They want to make sure that parties 1 and 2 are lockstep. And once they are, party 3 is going to jump right on in. I don't know if it's that easy, but it seems that way.
I don't think it'll feel that easy, but it may be if everything else is in line. Something very important is happening this week where Alameda is going to start, the Alameda County, I should say, is going to start their own study, their own financial study to see if the numbers pencil out and make sense. Remember when they had the meeting, I think was that September? Man, it's all a blur. The big one where they took their non-binding vote to join in on the IFD. They had studies put together that stated that it would be very beneficial for Alameda County to jump in revenue-wise. But Alameda wants their own study and their own information. So this week they're going to vote to get their own study done. And guess who's going to pay for it?
Oakland A's probably.
Of course. The A's are going to pay for all of it. It's going to be $200,000. So when they get their own study in, they're going to do what is best financially for the county. And when they find out that it's going to make the county money, I mean, they have action items that are very important to them. And obviously baseball is not necessarily one of them. They got to fight homelessness and they got a pandemic and they have a lot of other very important issues to deal with. Yeah. And when they find out that if they jump in on this IFD for Howard Terminal, it means they're going to be bringing in millions of dollars to put towards those very issues, then yeah, they'll absolutely vote yes. And so I'm not really worried about that. They may make it feel painful, but if the numbers say it's good,
right,
they're going to do it. Whatever their opinions are, the numbers are what's going to make their decision. So I think pretty soon we'll find out a lot more when they get that study. They're just this week going to get that thing started.
I think it's really important too to bring this up. I mean, you and I are responsible people in a sense that we want the Oakland A's to continue 50 plus years where the city they call home, we want a brand new ballpark, something that's been overdue for them for more than a decade now, several decades. But I don't think either of us want this to happen at the expense of a county and a city, which obviously, like a lot of other counties and cities across the country and in California, they have other problems right now. I am, I got to tell you, in the public comments, that happen at all these meetings, which, by the way, can be fatiguing because they go so long and they're off topic sometimes and they are scripted, sometimes by somebody else, like somebody's reading somebody else's writing clearly sometimes. But I have to say, I do understand people that are worried about change if they own a business locally or if they live locally to this project site. They're just concerned about change. They want to make sure that they're heard, that they have their say, that they're considered, all that stuff. I've learned to really accept that side of this, but also to say everything I've seen, I believe things will get taken care of in a responsible fashion. But I understand the concerns of people who want to make their voice heard, even though I don't always either agree with it or, I think that they will find the answers in time.
Well, yeah, and I think that's critically important. You know what? I would love for them to build Howard Terminal, but I would hate for them to build Howard Terminal and it's something that gets built and it doesn't feel like a win for Oakland and a win for the A's and a win for Alameda County. Like, I hope it gets built in a way that everybody can say, look, we did this. This is great for everybody. I don't want it to be built at the expense of somebody feeling like they were taken. Like, you look at what the Raiders did when they came back and just stuck the taxpayers with the bill on Mount Davis, still paying for that disaster, man, ruined the Coliseum. And the Raiders left a really bad taste in everyone's mouth. And I think that's why the city of Oakland is so cautious and guarded in this process.
Yeah.
And to their credit, you remember on July 20th, they had a term sheet that they came up with on their own. It wasn't the A's term sheet. And the A's were very hardcore on that. They said, if you vote on your term sheet, that's a no vote. It doesn't count. We're going. And they did it. They called the A's bluff. They voted on their term sheet and they sweetened the pot when they did it. They said they will take care of the offsite infrastructure. That was a big thing the A's were worried about. And you know what? I like to see this from both sides. Let's real quick, the offsite infrastructure. Go walk around Howard Terminal. Go walk around Jack London Square. Yeah. That area needs a lot of work, and it needs a lot of work whether they put a stadium there or not. So I see the A's side. Why should we have to pay for that? That's something that has been needed to be taken care of for a long time, regardless of if a stadium goes here or not. The city said they'll take care of it. So, when you look at all of that, I do feel both sides on that aspect. So when they called the A's bluff, they voted on their own term sheet. They said they're going to take care of the offsite infrastructure. They structured the deal so it's not going to hurt the city's general fund. A lot of this money is going to come from what they call the but-for taxes, the tax revenue that comes from the stadium that wouldn't be there if the stadium's not there. They can take that money, put it into the community. The main thing, the most important thing in all of this that I'm getting to is that the community needs to be taken care of. That community benefits agreement, we might be able to see what that looks like by the end of March. That's got to be good. It's got to be something that everybody's on the same page on, because if it isn't, there's going to be hell to pay when these non-binding votes come up. I mean, the Oakland City Council made that very clear in that last meeting. If the community's not taken care of, it's not going to look pretty. So, I think the community and how they're treated and how all this is handled is possibly the most important thing coming up out of all of this.
It's a really hard situation, too, because, you look at problems that Oakland has, problems that, like I said, a lot of other communities, San Jose has this problem, a lot of similar problems that you wouldn't expect from San Jose. Mm-hmm. They have them, too, right now, just as a California city that's going through some difficult times. But circling back to Oakland here, it's one of those situations where they need help in a lot of regards. This project could help some things, but I'm also cautious of some people out there who maybe oppose the project or they're for the project, but they only want the project to happen if it fixes 10 other problems that currently exist that have nothing to do with the project itself. It's almost like if I told you, Casey, I'm gonna help you win the lottery. And you say, great. And then I say, but you're going to have to pay taxes on that. You say, oh, I don't know. I don't know if I want to win all that money if I have to give some of it away. It's just, there's a difference between really, 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 really good and perfect for the city of Oakland. And I hope they're able to see what benefits them here. And I think they have. You're going to ask, some people are going to ask for the world. in this.
I think you have to ask for the world as a baseline in a negotiation.
Sure.
You can hopefully meet somewhere in the middle. But, there's two ways to look at it. One, they promise all these community benefits and they're going to have to deliver because it's going to be a real bad look if the A's end up leaving town because they didn't want to have affordable housing. I mean, that's going to leave a real stain on their legacy. So, those are the things that they have to deliver on because it's a really bad look if you don't, first of all, and it won't happen if you don't. But if those are the last, things in the negotiation that sink the deal, then the team is to blame in that regard because you have to do it. But also on the community side, if they don't build Howard Terminal, the community benefits are it's zero.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a tough negotiation.
Right.
You get nothing if there's no stadium there in community benefits. Then you also are going to lose the team in Oakland and all the jobs that provides and, the community revenue that they do charity wise. It's not a gigantic number, but it's something, it's something.
You and I have talked about this through the course of our conversation, which, by the way, has now surpassed an hour. Congratulations on that. I'm running a little empty here, but
get some more Mac Drizzle.
I know. I got to go back in the kitchen.
I'm running a little low, but I'm on an 11%.
I've been milk. So. Yeah, right. Well, you need to milk it. I didn't as much. I'm only on a double IPA here. Mac Drizzle Diamond IPA, double IPA. Where was I going with this? Oh, I think what everybody needs to realize, it's been hinted at, you talked about it a while ago, all of this could and should likely come into not completion, but fruition. Like we'll have a really good idea by the end of this baseball season, I think, what's going to happen here. Is that the timeline that we're hopeful for it, but is that realistic though? Is it realistic that by October, by Halloween, hypothetically, we're going to know that this thing is binding? Not shovels in the ground, but binding? Is that still fair?
Yeah, I would say so. And the reason I say that is twofold. One, they got to get a lot of these things settled well before the end of baseball season. And two, there's an election in November in Oakland.
Right.
And if this thing runs into the election cycle,
it's messy.
It's going to get real messy.
Yeah.
It's going to get real messy real fast because you sit through the Oakland City Council meetings just like I do. A lot of those people are running for mayor or other office. And they may not be there. And then that would mean that they're electing people to replace their spots. And they're the gatekeepers. They're the ones that need to vote on this thing. And then it becomes a huge hot button political issue. Do you support HT? Do you not support HT? That's going to be a big part of your candidacy in how you're running. And I just think that's going to muddy everything up. So I think they really have to get this done before the election cycle. Also, frankly, the mayor's done a really good job on this. She's really pushed hard to get this thing done. And when you lose Libby Schaaf in office come November, whoever ends up replacing her could be pretty scary in terms of the amount of interest in getting this thing finished. I mean, she's been a major champion for this project. And when she's not mayor anymore, I don't know what will happen, what that'll look like.
Well, I know several individuals have already announced their candidacy, right, for running.
Yeah,
you're
looking at several people that have weighed in heavily on the projects in these Oakland City Council meetings.
So you know where they stand. You know where they stand, though, right? I mean, nobody's going to hide on this and then say, "Well, now I'm mayor. Here's my position."
Those haven't necessarily been binding. I mean, the EIR one was, but I mean, you're going to have Rebecca Kaplan running for Alameda County Board of Supervisors. You have Sheng Tao running for mayor. You got Lauren Taylor running for mayor. You got Trevor Reed running for mayor. You got a lot of movement there. And I think Taylor and Reed, and to some extent Sheng Tao, have been supportive of Howard Terminal. Kaplan's done a tremendous amount of work on Howard Terminal, and she'll probably get to vote on it as an Alameda County supervisor potentially if this thing drags on too long. So yeah, I think that it's going to be really interesting. I don't know. I just don't know where it goes if it gets muddied up in the Oakland election season. And frankly, Brodie, I don't know how I know this much about politics at this point. Because we're supposed to just be sports guys. Like, why do we know all this?
There's a difference between a DEIR and an FEIR and an IFD. We've got all the acronyms covered. No, and you know what? I want to say it's funny when city council has a meeting and they go, "Whoa, we've got 300 people on Zoom right now watching us. This is big." You know, I'm like, well, of course it is. There's a lot of people interested in this.
But that circles back to my original point, right? About why I started getting into this. And I'm sure the answer is very similar for you. We followed this for so long, but we wanted to shine a light on it. And between you and I think a lot of the people in those Zooms may or may not have clicked links that we tweeted or posted. Be honest.
Yeah. What's it like covering this for you? Now, you and I take different approaches. I mean, look, I'll be honest. I'm just trying to keep people informed. I'm trying to add perspective. I'm trying to take bigger pictures sometimes. I mean, you're in the thick of it quite often. And I know you're talking to people. I know you're on the record, you're off the record, you're interviewing everybody all the time. You talk to Dave Cavill way more than I do. But I'm just curious, like, how many people do you rely on? Don't name names. Don't even name sides, because I also know that you talk to people on both sides of this project. You talk to people that oppose this because you're interested in, you're trying to feel things out. How many people total do you lean on?
I can't even give you a number, honestly. Like, I don't know. I talk to a lot of people. And it's not always like the obvious sides, frankly. Like, when I first started all this, I knew the A's because I covered the A's.
Right.
I already knew the A's. So I was like, I talked to the A's a lot.
Right.
But then as I got into this more, I talked to the A's a lot less because I was talking to a whole lot of other people, both city, county, opposition, a lot of really smart fans, like a lot of really, really smart fans. Like, the thing about this that I love the most is, like I was kind of joking about, we're sports guys, right? Like, we cover sports. But what's cool about covering Howard Terminal is, now I have to know everything about legal, and I have to know everything about the economy, and I have to know everything about politics, and I have to know everything about construction, and I have to know about the port.
Yeah.
Like, I need to know everything. You need to understand this project as a whole. And so what I do is recognize that I don't know all this stuff. Like, I'm a sports guy. So what I do is I find people that know all this stuff really well, and I pick their brains. I just find the people that I think are experts in each of these individual fields, or someone that, I've seen say something smart or interesting or different. And I just try to seek those people out because it really helps me understand the whole process, all sides of the process. So I try to talk to as many people as possible because it gives you a lot of context and it helps you understand everything. Because I may think one way, but what do I know? Right. Like, well, I'm not a lawyer, so I try to just pick everybody's brains.
Like I said before, hearing the other side of this is something I've realized is important. Whether you agree with it or you like it or not, it's important to know what's out there, what opposes the project, so that you can have a realistic expectation, of how things could go, and hearing both sides. Let's turn the temperature down for just a second. Like, we got into some politics, we got into the mayor stuff. How about just when you think about Howard Terminal as a ballpark, as an experience, as something you might want to take your kids to down the road, what does it look like to you? I mean, I know what the renderings look like to you. What does the actuality look and feel like to you?
You know what? I think that what gets lost a lot in all this is something you just mentioned, is something you want to take your kids to, because you went to the Coliseum as a kid. I went to the Coliseum as a kid. Our parents took us.
Yeah.
They probably went when they were younger. And I think what's not quantifiable in this whole project is the generational value of just having a sports franchise, and something that can unite generation after generation of family member, unite people like that you don't even know. You might bump into someone on BART, but they're wearing an A's hat, and then you start talking, and the next thing you know, you're friends. And
right.
I mean, or even me and you, how we met, we both agreed on a lot of the A's stuff. We both grew up watching the team, and we became friends right away. So I think there's a kind of generational value that you can't quantify when you talk about all these numbers. So what I see in that project is, like, just the other day, for example, we took the ferry into Jack London Square. We hung out at Plank, played a bunch of games,
Nice.
had lunch outside. But to think that if the stadium was there too, even if it wasn't a game day and you could actually go take in that roof loop and enjoy all that public space there, I think it'd be so cool. Even on non-game days, I think it would actually offer something. Unlike most stadiums now, when it's not a game day, they're just sitting there, they're useless. But as a public park space, I think it would be really cool. I think people will probably scoff at like, oh, public space, public parks, whatever. But I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful spot of land.
Yeah.
And be able to really enjoy it the way that you could with that big aerial loop throughout the stadium. I think that would be really sweet. Not to mention just having a nice ballpark, just sitting right there, staring across the bay at Oracle Park after they held those territorial rights to San Jose. They could have had the A's way off in the distance.
60 miles south, yeah.
They're going to be staring at them right in the face.
Wasn't it, was it Ebbets Field and Yankee Stadium that were only separated by, small what were the two New York ballparks way back in the day? Man,
I'm not super up on.
I'm gonna get there's an aerial picture, but it's essentially just like that.
Right.
I mean, two ballparks, two modern ballparks, what we'd have in the Bay Area, just a couple miles as
that Bay Bridge series will really be a Bay Bridge series now.
So here's the other thing about it. I mean, you mentioned the open space. Is it 18 acres of open space planned out for Howard Terminal?
Unless they have to slice out that
the turning basin.
That'll take some of the public space away. But even then, like we said, the stadium has that roof track, which is all of
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, nice opportunities for public spaces. But here's the deal. Like, you've walked the grounds. So have I. People who are opinionating on a lot of this stuff, and I don't mean people that are actual stakeholders, like they are a resident of West Oakland or Chinatown or downtown or Old Oakland. I'm saying people who are just Alameda County residents or Northern California people who say they have such a strong opinion. You've never even been there. If you're against this, like, you need to see what this could be. You need to actually go, and it's a place, you're right, you can't really go visit. I mean, you did. You walked right on. I've been there as a guest, but it's a place.
Don't do what we did.
People talk about this place, and they've never even seen it one way or the other.
Yeah, to understand it truly, there's two things you need to do. One, go to downtown Oakland. Get off at that BART station right by the Oakland Marriott where the Warriors practice facility used to be. Walk down Broadway. Just walk down Broadway till you hit Jack London Square. And you can really envision what it'll be like on a game day. There'll be crowds of people walking through, stopping at all those restaurants. I mean, the one day when me and Jeff August did it, we walked past Beast Mode and Marshawn Lynch was literally standing right out front. We just walked right by Marshawn.
Was he eating Skittles? Did he have Skittles in hand?
No, but he was hanging out right out front. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, the whole vibe from Broadway straight down to Jack London Square, you'll really see what it would be like to approach this and the buzz that you would encounter as you headed into Jack London Square. It would be so sweet. The other thing, number two, is take a ferry ride. Take a ferry ride to Jack London Square. If you haven't done it, it's just a spectacular ride. Yeah. You go right under the Bay Bridge. The waterfront's beautiful. And what's cool about the ferry ride is you come in, you pass all the cruise, or not the cruise, the ports. You pass all the mega ships getting loaded and all the cranes. You pass by Schnitzer Steel, and you pass right past Howard Terminal as you get to Jack London Square, and it gives you an incredible perspective from the water of exactly where everything is and what it would look like. And it's just a spectacular spot. It's a really cool ride too. It's cheap too, and you can get beer on the ferry.
Oh. And no traffic, and you don't have to drive, and it's pretty much chill. Yeah, it's a boat ride.
Highly recommend it.
You're on a cruise.
So, I mean, those are two ways that you can really experience the area and kind of try to envision what it would be like to have a stadium there that don't require you actually going on site. You don't need to go on site. Just walk down Broadway to Jack London or take the ferry.
Here's another question that it's been brewing in my mind. And there are a lot of people who cover Howard Terminal, right? They cover this storyline. They cover the ins and outs. They cover the city council meetings. They cover the board of supervisor meetings. So you and I, by far, not the only ones who have a hand in this, who are interested in this. But you've been mentioned in these meetings, by the way. You've actually been name dropped.
I've been mentioned.
I text you. I'm
mentioned.
like, hey, you got in the meeting. Congratulations.
The one that really scared me, though, not to distract, was when President Carson of the Alameda County Board of Supervisors mentioned me. I was like, oh God, what did I do now?
I think the cop showed up at your door like 5 minutes later.
That was a little scary.
I didn't do anything.
No, it's good because he was saying he watched an interview I did. And so with Larry and I did an interview with Dave Cavill that he mentioned and referenced in the actual Alameda County Board of Supervisors meeting. So, just shows we're doing stuff that people are watching. That's
but why aren't more people covering this? And why do some people... It's interesting, whether it's the news world, the sports world, some sports people don't care about the A's as a baseball team, but they do care about Howard Terminal. Some news outlets, they don't seem like they're either favorable for this to happen or they just don't care, or it's like they don't understand it. They don't dedicate anybody to it. I know why you and I are passionate about this. I'm wondering sometimes why the quantity is not there or the dedication to it is not there.
Well, I can tell you why. A lot of it's just fatigue. This thing's gone on for too long. And what's sad about it is, sure, the stadium saga has gone on too long, but from the moment the A's selected Howard Terminal some 3-4 years ago to now,
right,
a lot has happened.
Oh, yeah.
So I've been following it the whole time. And shout out New Ballpark, who was always mixing it up with people on Twitter. Yeah. Remixes Munkata. He has a whole blog that's been going on for like something like 16 years now.
Cisco Field, baby.
So no matter what your exchanges with him are like, I personally respect the hell out of that guy. I think he's done a ton of work on this. But if you just eliminate, I know it's hard to do this, it's maybe not fair completely. If you just eliminate everything that happened before Howard Terminal and just start from there, it's a pretty substantive list of things that have gone on and pretty quickly. So I think it's fatigue. I think that's why. I think another reason is just like what we talked about before. It's very hard to understand what's going on. And that's why I try to pick so many people's brains and present it in a digestible way. But you know what? Like most people aren't political experts and legal experts and economy experts, and couple that with being a sports expert. And it's a lot, man. It's a lot. Right. And so I see that as the main reason so many people don't cover it. The complication and the fatigue are huge. And then I kind of like that not a lot of people are covering it, because when people jump in cold, like say somebody gets assigned to cover a meeting or something, they don't know what's going on.
That ain't good.
They don't know what's going on. And the thing is like, no matter how much homework they want to try to do, they're never going to get caught up fully to the 16-year plus saga of everything. And then you also see like certain interests will say certain things to a reporter that's new on the story, and they'll just take it for okay, all right, yeah, all right, and
fooled
like,
you, yeah.
No, like you go be like, none of that's correct. Why didn't you push back on that? Like, and that's where it gets me. I mean, you can't go and just ask the A's something. They may say something, but unless you hear it from the A's and the city, and probably even the port, you can't just take it as gospel. Like you can't hear one thing from an opposition and then just go, oh, okay, yeah, that's terrible. That sounds awful. Let's not do this. It's like, no, you got to then check with the A's about that, check with the city about that, check with the port about that. And so that's why I don't necessarily mind that not a lot of people are covering it. Because you get a lot of those quotes. Like I saw this quote the other day, man. It was in a story. I don't want to say the outlet, but it was Vinny Bacon. He actually ran for Alameda County Board of Supervisors in this district I live in. And he said something about like the taxpayers getting left holding the bag. And that was like his big soundbite. And I was like, no, like that's not true. Like you just lied on television. And you just put that right in the story, because that's what the guy said. And it's like, no, like it's literally incorrect information in that context. So that kind of stuff really frustrates me. There's a lot of misinformation out there on this project.
How you doing on time? Is there anything else I haven't touched on yet that I've missed that you want to get to?
Like, depends what you want to talk about. I'm good. I'm here as long as you need. Everyone in my house is asleep right now.
Likewise. Hey, you want to bust out the Xbox?
Yeah, we got young kids, so I mean, it's like they're all
on that note, I'm only going to be awake for another 30 minutes. Like, is there anything else though that I've been trying to, guide us through this. Is there anything that I've missed in this conversation, or anything that's on your brain, something about the project or the future that I've missed here?
No, I mean, I think you know it really well, and that's kind of why it's fun talking to you about it. I just do think that is like, I don't want to say as rah-rah as we want to be about getting the A's a stadium here in Oakland. I still, like I said, have a lot of fears that it could go sideways, and I think we're going to get a pretty good glimpse of that on this coming Wednesday.
Yeah.
The BCDC's going to have a meeting. They're not going to take a vote or anything, but they're going to go over, the whole port jurisdiction and all the other stuff. And so, I mean, it's crazy to think that the A's can work so hard on something in the city of Oakland, and God, the city of Oakland's really busted their butts to keep this team. The A's have worked really hard. The city's worked really hard. The county's been in the mix, and to think that they could work really hard and battle and unite and come to a resolution just to have, a government agency go, stadium doesn't work there. Real estate doesn't work there. Sorry. That would be devastating.
Does it take, can one entity though? You're talking about Save the Bay, right? That's what BCDC is.
I think Save the Bay is part of BCDC.
Got it.
Yeah.
Can one thing like that derail the whole project, or can it just delay it, or can it throw, you know what I'm saying? I think what we're all worried about is the type moment. Is it like that, or is it just, okay, we gotta work through this, or we gotta fight through this?
I mean, I think that if they don't get the answers they want, and there's some indications in the documentation and in all that if you follow, you should really, everybody listening, follow Vitamin D on Twitter.
Yeah.
DEE, go find him. I retweet him all the time. He's worked really hard in just looking at all the BCDC and port side stuff, and he shares it all with me, and he also posts it. But there's a lot there, and frankly, I've spent so much time on the team and in the city that I haven't had as much time to really dive into like the regulatory agencies and kind of what could or could not be, permitted on this project site. And so a big part of Howard Terminal is getting that land, the port designation removed from that land. If you can remove the port designation from that land, then that clears the way for the port to then come up with the real estate deal. And then also you also have like the state lands commissions and all the other people that are going to get to weigh in too. So there's some things I fear when looking at that. But based on the fact that I've spent as much time talking to the A's in the city as I have, and they haven't really brought that up a whole lot,
right?
I'd like to hope that means it's not as imminent as a concern as it seems like it might be. But
right.
We'll know a whole lot more about that on Wednesday, and that's coming quick. And then that's what's fun about this. Right now, we joke about like binding vote season and possible action and all these things. Like it's happening. Like there's like each week's bringing more things that are significant. Last week, I actually texted you about this. It was crazy. This Oakland City Council meeting last week, they almost fumbled the bag. Like the whole thing.
What happened? What happened there? Explain in reverse. I was covering a Sharks game.
Yeah,
you said that's why that was my excuse, is because hockey was going on.
No, the Sharks game was on. You were doing.
Yeah. What happened during that hockey game? What did I miss? Because it seemed like a pedestrian meeting, and apparently it was not.
It sort of did. It sort of did seem like a pedestrian meeting, and that's where things can really sneak up on you, because barely anybody even heard about the meeting. I didn't even really hear about it till the day before, because I don't cover Oakland politics for a living. That's not my job.
Right.
So I didn't even really notice the meeting until the day before the meeting. And so I tuned in, and there was two things they were going over. They're going back over the EIR and the port jurisdiction, all that stuff that they voted on in that big EIR meeting, and just pushing that forward. But then there was another item on the agenda where they were deciding whether or not they were going to bring on a bunch of staff, like $5 million worth of staff to the city that will handle, the acquisition of all these federal funds and regional funds and all the stuff they need to pay for this offsite infrastructure they agreed to foot the bill for. And so a lot of that's coming in from grants and like federal money and all these other things. And they need people to seize that money and apply for that money and collect that money and then implement those funds on these projects. And it's a whole lot. And so what was funny about it was, really, what were they voting on? they were voting on increasing the staff. Do they have to pay for that? No, the money's coming from the grants that they're bringing in. The money's already there. Like they've already brought in a bunch of the money they need. And that's what the staff was going to get paid from. So it's not even like the money was coming out of the city budget. And the city council was frustrated because it was part of a program called Town for All. And most of the money they were talking about is going to get committed to the waterfront and the offsite infrastructure. And they're saying, well, that's not Town for All.
Okay.
That's Town for some. That's Town for the waterfront. Like, what about all this other stuff that needs to happen in this city? And they were saying that the A's were going to like jump the line on all this other stuff that needed to happen in the community. And they were not happy about that. And so they ended up voting, and, you know, the usual people voted no. Gaio voted no. You know, Carol Fife voted no. But then some interesting things started happening. Shang Tao, who's running for mayor, she abstained. And when it got down to Nikki Fortuna Bass, she voted no.
Huh.
And what that triggered was that no vote meant, I think it was 2 no's, 2 abstains. Oh man, I'm trying to remember the exact total off the top of my head, but there was more yes votes than no votes, but the abstentions made it wasn't a positive yes vote,
right.
and it went down. And then they all were like shocked. They were like, wait, I thought this was going to pass. And they were like, we're kind of like, well, what do we do now? Because they realized they messed up. And so then they said, okay, well, let's take a vote to take another vote. And so they took a vote that allowed them to re-vote. And then they re-voted, and Bass changed her vote, and it passed. But it was like that. It was so close. Like that moment right there. If they voted no on staffing up to figure out all the grants and funds for the offsite infrastructure, that would have made a big difference. That would have really, really hindered the momentum that they've built so far with all these, you know, non-binding votes, and then the planning commission, and then the EIR certification. That would have really thrown a wrench in things. And sure, they could have probably drawn up some other legislation and waited a month and then voted on it again in the next meeting with some different headlines and words, and then passed it to make up for the mistake. But that would have set everything back another month, even if they did bring it back then. And that's just time they don't have right now. You know, they need to get things solved quickly. Because it's binding vote season. So that right there was an example of a meeting that barely anybody was watching or paying attention to, where the city council almost kneecapped the project on accident. So it was weird. I've never seen anything like it. I haven't covered politics for a very long time, but it was definitely unique. And so those are the kind of little hiccups that scare me a little bit. And also I think that it was a message that they really, really have to take things seriously with how they handle and approach the community benefits package going forward.
Does it seem to you, and we've talked about how maybe the county of Alameda is waiting for the city and the A's to agree, but you know, there are a series of votes which need to happen here, a series of approvals and votes. Mm-hmm. Are you a believer that momentum in this exists? Now we're talking about totally different people voting on totally different things and procedures and processes, and like this is not just A, B to C to D. This is, you know, something over here versus something over there, completely different issue over here versus there. But don't you think that once votes are yes publicly over and over and over, that there is such a thing as momentum in this process?
Yeah, 100%. And the way I see it is that as each binding vote comes, there's going to be scenarios where you don't want to be the one to take the blame for killing Howard Terminal.
Right.
Like when it was in the non-binding votes, like even then it's like, does the county really politically want to be the ones to vote no on this?
Well, if it's a bad deal, if it really is something obvious that they're going to lose money on, or it's dangerous, or it's risky, then I think they'll vote it down. They owe it to themselves, right? To be honest
they owe it to everybody.
Their constituents, absolutely. But if there's nothing they can see wrong with it, and it does look promising and it does look appeasing, then
they vote yes.
Right.
But then say they vote yes, then it goes to the next, major vote. Like each individual group that comes in touch with the binding vote doesn't want to be the one to vote it down.
It's like a tree, though. It's like when you plant a tree, right? It needs a special attention at first, and it's vulnerable. Like you just replanted it. I don't know if it's going to live, but once it grows its roots, I mean, we're literally talking about Oakland here. We're rooted in Oakland, but once it grows its roots and it starts to mature a little bit, like this process has, to the point it's harder to see no votes coming, or it's harder to be the one holding it up because of something that could potentially get remedied or righted or fixed or whatever. The more mature this process gets, I think the harder it is to have things that could derail it. Although it is a possibility, I think people understand the direction it's going.
Yeah, I think so too. And so that's why I feel 70% on this at this point. I mean, sure, if you wanted to go with like a tree metaphor, maybe the EIR certification was like the seed actually being planted. You know what I mean?
That's it?
Like, I think it's the seed being planted. Because you still have to like grow through all these binding votes and then get the shovels out and actually build the damn thing. I mean, geez. So I still think I think it's a long way to go. And that's not only is it a long way to go, each step from here is so much more important than the past steps that it's significant. The leverage is big.
What do you think about Kelly green as a new main color for the A's, primary color?
They got to do it. Everyone loves the Kelly green. I like the gold a lot too, but the Kelly green is supreme.
Well, I made a video today. It's going to be released tomorrow here on the channel, and I use the renderings of somebody named Brad Wolf Design on Twitter. He did this back in October. I think I even retweeted it. I forgot. Somebody sent it back to me, but he did a mock-up of Tony Kemp wearing a jersey, like a home jersey, but he redid it. So he retooled it. So there's not a lot of that forest green or hunter green. It's Kelly green and gold, and it looks chef's kiss. It's perfect. So
yeah, honestly, like when they started rocking the Kelly green, everyone took notice. I mean, I really feel like around the baseball community, the Kelly green is one of the sweetest uniforms in all the game. It's clean. I'm wearing it right now. And whenever I get anything from Last Dive Bar,
well,
gotta scoop up all your Last Dive Bar stuff. But I always get it in Kelly green. I always, except for this other shirt, because I had to have two different binding boat season shirts. So I got white and Kelly green, but everything Kelly green's good. It's just a great color. It's unique too. And I really, like I said, I really like the gold alternates. I really dug those, especially because it reminded me, a lot of the 70s teams. But I think the Kelly green is supreme. I don't really like the forest green, to be honest. Even when Oaklandish re-released their Howard Terminal shirt, it was only available in forest green, so I was kind of bummed about that.
You still bought one.
I still bought one. Like, what? I had to have it, but I just feel like the forest green's not special. It doesn't catch the eye,
I just realized.
Look at the old colors of the 70s, the wedding gown white and the Fort Knox gold, and the Kelly green. Like those are the colors I want to see.
That's all in the video that's coming out tomorrow. So, and you know what? You picked the exact 4 jerseys: home, road, white, gray, wedding gown, white, gray, and Kelly green and Fort Knox gold. So that's a video for tomorrow. But you know what I'm realizing? I always do this when I wear a Last Dive Bar shirt. I make a commercial on the live stream, and then they edit it up into a commercial. So are you ready to make our Last Dive Bar commercial? I don't even know what we're going to say. I'll happily do it. And the reason, not only do I like the gear, but I'm going to say this for real, man. Like, I don't wear A's stuff, to be honest, a whole lot, especially because it was pounded into my brain as a beat writer that you just can't be a fan of the team. Speak for yourself.
I grew up a fan, but I don't see that this is like A's apparel. This is Last Dive Bar apparel. And it all goes to charity. And that's like when those dudes, they donated money to the children's hospital that saved my daughter's life. I know it. That's next level. So, everything they do it goes to charity. They're not pocketing the money on this. It's going to charity. So I don't mind shamelessly plugging Last Dive Bar. I'll do it all the time because it's for a good cause. That's all that matters to me.
Well, I need more of a production here, so I'm going to say lastdivebar.com. You couldn't hear the echo, but I put some echo with it. I know that made no sense to you. Everybody watching saw what I just did. No, they're great. You know what, Casey? This is episode 4, I think I've done, of Beers with Brodie. They were maybe episode 2 or 3. I had the whole crew on. They're great, to your point. They've done so many things uniting the A's fan base. They've become a brand. They've become a retailer. They've become, hey, get our shirts. They're pretty cool, but they're also something unifying too. Even if you don't buy a shirt, they kind of tie the culture, the A's culture, in together. And that's actually kind of the last thing I wanted to ask you about here. We talk about Howard Terminal, the experience, Howard Terminal, what it would do for the city of Oakland, and how it's a generational project, and you could bring your kids there, they'll bring their kids there. That's all great. Let's just say on some certain date that we get the email, the phone call, the text message, the whatever. This thing's done, or a meeting happens and it's done. Mm-hmm. This is signed, and not the shovels haven't even hit the ground yet, but we know they will. Does it instantly just bring a whole new chapter of being an A's fan? Do you forget about everything else that happened? Or are we going to welcome in a bunch of new A's fans? Like, what's going to happen when this thing becomes official?
Yeah, for us, it will be. I mean, for the people that follow it closely, the people that work with the team, work in the media, I mean, it'll be a different chapter for us for sure. I think from a fan perspective, it'll be a different chapter for the people that just know they're not going anywhere. The Vegas threats are gone. Everything's moving forward. Right. And then it'll really hit when that thing gets built. Like imagine the preseason games that are going to be the first ever games at Howard Terminal. Right. I mean, it's going to be something. I actually lived in San Diego when they built Petco Park. Remember when you saw me in San Diego?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, right.
That's why I lived in San Diego. I went to school down there. I went to community college for 4 years, Brodie. You're talking about school earlier.
I'm not even mad about that. What did you do down there for 4?
Well, San Diego.
I know what you did. Never mind. I know what you did.
Had a great time.
Is it called? Is it PB? Is that Pacific Beach?
Yeah,
Never mind.
PB, OB, Mission Beach, all of it, man. So I love San Diego. So when I lived down there, they built Petco Park, and I saw what that downtown looked like before the stadium, and I saw what it looked like after I went to the very first game at Petco Park. I was there. And God, that's a beautiful ballpark.
Yes.
And what it's done to downtown is just amazing. And I think that Howard Terminal could do something similar. So I think, you and I growing up in the East Bay and then having to, commute into the city, that's where NBC Sports Bay Area is located. That's where ABC7 is located. We both worked downtown. And the thing that always got me was when you get on that BART train near a Giants game time, and you're coming from the East Bay and the entire train's packed with Giants fans.
Ugh.
And you're like, these people should be A's fans, like by market, by region, by everything, but they're going to the Giants games. And I think that a lot of that's going to change with Howard Terminal. Because the Coliseum, frankly, I love it. I grew up going there, but it is indeed baseball's last dive bar. It doesn't compare to Oracle Park. And the A's need something. They need something to compete with Oracle Park if they're going to survive in this market. And that's why Howard Terminal is so important. They need a ballpark that is just as good, if not better than Oracle Park, or they cannot win that battle against the Giants.
Yeah. Well said. I got nothing else, man. I think we did it. I think, I hope we covered everything. I know we've been on, for a long time. Hour 45. But
yeah.
I mean, we could this could go on even further and deeper, but I think for most people that probably satisfies it. So we've been talking about this for a while. I'm glad we did it.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great to reunite with you, frankly, because, while we're friends and we talk and text all the time, to do it in a media format is rare these days because we just work for two different companies.
This production is not an NBC production. It's not an ABC production.
This is a non-sanctioned interview. Not NBC. It's not ABC. It's just two friends on a live stream.
No,
don't get it twisted.
We didn't tell anybody about this, so we may be hearing about it tomorrow morning. But
we may or may not have cleared this with our bosses, and we may hear about it. Yes, you're right. That being said, we used to be on the same team. We used to work together every day. We used to do pre and post together. When I was A's Insider, we were always working together. Whether it was when I was on or off camera, we were always on the same side. So it's cool to do something like this with you in a way that other people can see it. Because we always we'll be friends behind the scenes too. But it's cool to do it for other people to watch.
Well, I tried to. Parenting limitations, hour of the day, lighting. Like we were thinking about doing. I have
Warriors game at 6:00.
Right.
Well, the Warriors game. They're terrible right now, but
I actually did some work at the house here because I think I might, and this will be when we continue covering this next time. I got a cool front patio in our house here, and I
wanted to see it. I
wired up. I wired up and because you've been here in this tiny little home studio. This is no place for us to do this conversation, but I got the whole thing all set up so it's got we can use all the patio chairs. It would have been really well. It literally might have been cool. It cold. It figuratively would have been cool too. But
we would have had to do it during the day. I would have brought you some scarcity, and we would have been
day drinking, and I would have got you an Uber back to your house.
But it turned out that my kids, there was no school today, so I was with the kids all day hanging out. Yeah. So we had to do it after. This
was just as good, honestly. And we'll save that for next time. But I will look forward to that. Keep up the great work. Honestly, I know. I'm not saying people found out about you because of this, but I honestly think people are turning to you specifically for this, and just the effort you've put in is noticed, and hopefully by you knowing that and hearing that from a bunch of different people, that keeps you going, because we know it is a labor of love. I don't think you're striking it rich on this, but I mean it is something we're both passionate about, and I can see that in you, and I commend you for it. So well done.
Thanks, man. You too. Let's keep shining a light on all this. Let's turn it out. Let's get all these people in these meetings. Let's go. All
right. We are going to sign off, and you know what I feel like we should do this. Shout outs to Ray Fosse right now. That's probably, I don't want to end it on that note, because I think we both might get emotional.
I know.
But man, you know what? You think about somebody who was A's baseball, and the green and gold and the Coliseum. Those are the three things that just, are the Oakland A's to me. We're missing him. And I certainly hope that something like this could come out of a next season where we don't have him. Something new could happen. New and good could happen for the Oakland A's. So
yeah, I think the A's as a franchise needs something to celebrate. And I will say shout outs to Ray Fosse and to Dick Callahan, because you know what, you and I always talk when we see each other, but two of the absolute best people to talk to at the Coliseum were always Dick Callahan and Ray Fosse. It just sucks being gone, man. I mean, those guys, always so fun to be around.
True staples of the experience. All right, Casey, I will let you go, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Have a good one.
All right.